Hello everyone, this is Nele speaking for the Curly Hair Project. And today I want to talk to you about anxiety in teenage girls with autism. Anxiety in teenagers in general is very common because puberty is a very difficult period to go through for any teenager. The reasons why this is because is that they have a lot of things going on. In short, is that they are ending their childhood where their parents played a very important role. If they had something going on, they would go to their parents for advice, for answers, for help, for anything really. Whereas when children go into puberty, they want to do things more by themselves. And this is really important to them because they're trying to search their own identity. They're trying to form who they really are. So what happens is that they drift away from the parents, or they can drift towards a peer group. What you also can see in teenagers is they're quite obsessed with the way they look and with the way they act. They magnify the whole thing. And this also has very important reasons. For one, it's to identify with a certain subculture or a group or peers who will confirm their identity for them. It's also a way to step away more even from the parents, like to acknowledge their own identity, to emphasize their own being, and see themselves as a separate entity from the family entity. And they will also get understanding from other people or other teenagers who dress and act the same as another confirmation for their own identity. However, when you have autism, those processes can be very difficult. During puberty, a lot of the emphasis lies on groups and on friendships. That's very strongly that's really emphasized an awful lot. The reason why this is like I mentioned before is that you need a group to acknowledge your identity for you. For example, when you see a teenager who's all dressed in black, like with really pale makeup and black lips, they will tend to drift towards other teenagers who will dress and act the same way because that group will make them feel at home and accepted in their own identity. And that's really important for them. So that way they can form their own identity and they can check and test where they should go or where they shouldn't go. But for someone with Asperger syndrome or autism, this can become very difficult because, first of all, there's a lot of social interaction that is required. There's a lot of the teenagers will develop a unique set of skills, social skills, to interact with the peer group they feel attracted to. When you have autism, this is not that easy to accomplish because you don't know really what people expect of you, and you don't know what to do with yourself, and you don't know where you want to go. There's a very massive contradiction going on in yourself because in one part, the teenager with Asperger syndrome or autism still feels very young on the inside and wants to hang with the parents and stay the family unit, and not grow up, because that's a very overwhelming world, a very frightening world out there that requires a lot of socializing and bonding with other peer members and groups, and that simply isn't possible for someone with autism. But on the other hand, due to their keen sense of observation and analytical mind, they're much older than their peers. So they understand how the world works, minus the social interaction, in a much greater and deeper sense than someone who's their age. So this is very double. On one side, you have them not wanting to leave home because that's safety for them, and they know how to feel there and how to act, to react, and they have like the whole script for the social interaction in their minds, whereas they don't want to go outside to socialize with their peers because that requires a whole new set of skills they simply do not possess. But on the other hand, they understand a lot more about the world and how it works, like, for example, what education means, how important it is, what they want to do with their later lives on, if they want to go to university and how they will study. They can place all that a lot better than their peers. So there's a lot of anxiety that's involved with that. First of all, you have the fact that they want to stay with their family group. That's not considered to be normal behavior in this society, whereas teenagers often drift away from their parents. You know, if mom says that she wants to buy a leather jacket, then the teenage daughter will say that that's not okay, and start lecturing you about all the cruelty against animals, and it's very extreme. Whereas the Aspie will simply nod in agreement or not make such a fuss about it. And I'm sure people who have teenage children will understand the rebellious side of the teenage children. With someone with autism, that's a lot more difficult. So the children, the teenagers with autism, see the difference with their peers. So that's anxiety number one. They can see the evolution in their peers and they don't belong there. They don't know where to put themselves. How do I develop my own self-identity? Have I developed it already? Am I suppressing it? What happens to it? If I do join a group, do I have to conform myself? They have a lot more questions into their minds than someone who is neurotypical and teenager does. And they already have a mind packed full of questions. On the other side, you have the fact that they don't have that unique set of social skills to interact with the others. I remember when I was a teenager at school, you had these groups forming, and I was already very eccentric in the way I dressed. I've always been very eccentric in the way I dressed. And I've always been a rebel, standing up for injustice and stuff. But even so, I was very alone in my own ways because I couldn't connect with the groups. The groups were all about talking about the same subjects and having like a social discussion, whereas I was having a philosophical discussion about environmental topics that really went scientifically in depth, and that was not okay for them. So that anxiety comes there too, because you're still on your own. You don't seem to belong anywhere anymore, and people will point fingers for that. So especially in the school environment, this is extremely hard for a teenager with autism. They don't belong. They simply do not belong. And teenagers are so group bonded that anything or anyone that's outside their group is regarded as hostile. You don't belong with us. And that's very, very difficult for someone with autism, because going through puberty is an enormous change. It requires an awful lot of your brain to form this whole identity, to grow, to make you as you will be in your later adult life. And having support around that, even if it's by those peer groups, is crucial. But Aspie girls can't find that, because it's like I said before, they have like this really paradoxical thing going on in life. They want to belong to the family unit because it's their safety, but on the other hand, to see all their peers drifting away from that and finding their own identity. But their own identity requires a unique set of social skills, which they don't have. So they're sort of in between, hovering somewhere where they don't know who they are. And this creates a massive anxiety. If you're an adult, if you're a parent, and you see this anxiety in your teenage child, and it's hard for you to understand it, imagine yourself being put into China where the Chinese have never seen anyone like you and they're afraid of you. It's a very lonely place to be in. It's just an incredibly lonely place to be in because you don't want to conform, because that means just pushing your own self away, and that's not okay. But you don't want to be alone either. So there's this really difficult eternal struggle going in on the inside, like how am I going to develop my own self-identity? Providing support is crucial, like I said before, because when you see someone who's a teenager with autism struggle, helping them, letting them know it's okay to struggle and that you will be there for them no matter what, so they'll have someone to fall back on, will provide them with moral support and emotional support. So they feel like it's okay to be struggling and knowing that they'll be accepted. Of course, and I'm going to be very bluntly honest here, they still want the acceptance of their peers, which is very normal. We all want to be accepted by our fellow peer groups. And not getting that is completely difficult for them. So what you can do is, if your teenage daughter has a special interest, and let's say, for example, it can be theater, or it can be trains, it can be Doctor Who, it can be making jigsaw puzzles, see if you can find a local group or an online group that they can join so they can talk to them about it. That way they'll have a sense of belonging, and that sense of belonging is crucial during puberty. Is absolutely crucial. Family unit is very important, but belonging to a group is absolutely crucial. I have a blog about this, which I will link up on our Facebook page. If you have any more questions concerning anxiety in teenage girls, don't hesitate to ask. Just give us a poke on our Facebook page, and I hope you guys found this helpful. Thank you for listening.